Part 1. Potential means nothing without action. The world does not reward potential. It rewards execution. Every year, millions of people dream. A few people build, and in the end, the builders inherit the future. Take a slow breath, and for the next few minutes, be completely honest with yourself. Because today, we are going to talk about one of the biggest lies people tell themselves. A lie that destroys more dreams than failure ever could. The lie of potential. Now that might sound strange. After all, people admire potential. Parents praise it. Teachers praise it. Friends praise it. Society praises it. You're talented. You have so much potential. You could do amazing things. And while those words sound encouraging, they often create a dangerous illusion. Because potential and achievement are not the same thing, not even close. Now imagine a situation. Two people stand at the starting line. The first person is incredibly talented, smart, creative, gifted. Everyone believes he will succeed. The second person is average, nothing extraordinary, no special advantages, no remarkable talent, no impressive background. If you asked most people who would win, they would choose the talented person immediately. But life often tells a different story. Years later, the talented person is still talking, still planning, still preparing, still waiting. Meanwhile, the average person kept moving, kept building, kept learning, kept improving, and eventually, the average person surpasses him completely. Why? Because the world rewards action, not potential. This is one of the hardest truths many people never accept. Now let's go deeper. Potential is comfortable. Action is uncomfortable. Potential allows people to imagine success. Action forces people to risk failure. Potential feels exciting. Action feels difficult. Potential lives in the future. Action lives in the present. And because action feels harder, many people remain trapped in potential forever. Now imagine another situation. A person spends years talking about a business idea. Every conversation sounds impressive. Every plan sounds intelligent. Every prediction sounds promising. People around him say, "That's a great idea. You should do it. You're going to be successful." And he enjoys hearing those words. But years pass. Nothing is built. Nothing is launched. Nothing exists. Now imagine another person. Her idea is not perfect. Her plan is incomplete. She makes mistakes. She feels uncertain. But she starts anyway. One step, then another, then another. And eventually, while the first person is still talking, she has already created something real. This happens everywhere because ideas are common. Execution is rare. Now here's something important. The world cannot reward what does not exist. People often say, "I could have done that. I thought of that years ago. I almost started that." But could have does not change reality. Only action changes reality. Now imagine a builder standing beside an empty field. The builder has no masterpiece yet, no recognition, no applause, just a few bricks, a few tools, and a vision. Another person stands nearby. He has better ideas, better plans, better theories, but he never places a single brick. 10 years later, who has something to show? The answer is obvious, because reality responds to action, not imagination. Now let's go deeper. One of the most dangerous habits in life is confusing preparation with progress. Preparation matters, planning matters, learning matters. But eventually, there comes a moment when preparation becomes avoidance. Now imagine a person who constantly says, I'm still researching, I'm still learning, I'm still getting ready. At first, those reasons sound responsible, but eventually, they become excuses because deep down, he is not preparing anymore. He is hiding, hiding from uncertainty, hiding from judgment, hiding from failure. Now imagine another person. She prepares carefully, but then she acts, even when she does not feel completely ready. And because she acts, she learns faster, grows faster, improves faster. This is powerful because action teaches lessons that planning never can. Now here's something deeper. Many people are addicted to the feeling of possibility. They love imagining success, imagining wealth, imagining transformation, imagining the future. But imagination can become a trap because imagining progress often feels similar to making progress, and the brain can confuse the two. This is why some people spend years dreaming without building. Now imagine another situation. A person watches motivational videos every day, reads books, makes plans, writes goals, creates vision boards, but never acts consistently. Emotionally, he feels productive, but reality remains unchanged. Now imagine another person. She watches less, talks less, plans less, but acts more. And slowly, while nobody notices, her life begins changing. This is another invisible difference. Some people consume inspiration. Others create results. Now let's go deeper. The marketplace, the economy, the world itself does not reward intentions. It rewards value. People are rewarded for what they create, build, deliver, improve, solve. This can feel unfair sometimes because good intentions matter morally, but reality still responds to execution. Now imagine two writers. One dreams about writing a book. The other writes one page every day. The first person has more potential. The second person has more action. Years later, one person has a completed book. The other still has a dream. This pattern repeats everywhere. In business, in health, in relationships, in learning, in life itself. Now here's something important. Action is not glamorous. Most people imagine success as a dramatic moment, a breakthrough, a victory, a celebration. But success is usually much less exciting. It looks like repetition, consistency, small actions, ordinary effort, repeated for years. And because this reality feels boring, many people quit. They want extraordinary results without ordinary discipline. Now imagine another person. She understands this. She stops chasing excitement and starts chasing consistency. This changes everything because consistency compounds. Now let's go deeper. The world is full of talented people, brilliant people, creative people, gifted people. But talent without action becomes frustration. Potential without action becomes regret. Knowledge without action becomes wasted opportunity. This is why execution matters so much, because action transforms possibility into reality. Another powerful example is Thomas Edison. He is often remembered not simply for ideas, but for relentless experimentation, for repeated action, for persistence. Because innovation is rarely created through thinking alone. It is created through doing. Now think about your own life. What have you been planning for years? What goal keeps getting postponed? What dream still exists only inside your imagination? These questions matter deeply because the future does not belong to the people with the most potential. It belongs to the people who act on their potential. Now let's step back for a moment. Potential is a gift, but action is a choice, and choices shape lives. In the next part, we will go even deeper. We will explore why intelligent people often stay stuck, why action creates confidence, and why waiting to feel ready may be one of the most expensive mistakes a person can make. Because in the end, the world does not reward potential. It rewards action. Part 2. Why smart people stay stuck and ordinary people win. Potential is seductive because potential allows you to imagine success without risking failure. Action is different. Action forces reality to answer. And that is why so many talented people remain stuck. Take a moment and think about this. How many intelligent people have you met in your life? People with incredible ideas, incredible talent, incredible potential. People who seem destined for greatness. Now ask yourself another question. How many of them actually built something extraordinary? The answer is often surprising, because intelligence and achievement are not the same thing. Potential and execution are not the same thing. And this is where many people get trapped. Now let's begin. One of the greatest misconceptions in life is the belief that talent guarantees success. People love stories about gifted individuals, natural athletes, natural entrepreneurs, natural artists, natural leaders. But reality is rarely that simple. In fact, some of the most talented people in the world never fulfill their potential. And some of the most ordinary people achieve extraordinary results. Why? Because the world rewards action, not possibility. Now imagine a situation. A talented person enters a race. Everyone expects him to win. Even he expects himself to win. But because things come naturally, he develops a dangerous habit. He waits. He delays. He assumes he has time. He assumes his talent will eventually save him. Meanwhile, another person enters the same race. Less talent, less natural ability, but more consistency, more discipline, more action. And year after year, while the talented person waits, the disciplined person keeps moving. Eventually, the gap becomes impossible to ignore. This happens everywhere because action compounds. Potential does not. Now here's something important. Potential can become an excuse, a very comfortable excuse. People tell themselves, I could do it if I wanted. I could be successful if I tried. I could start anytime. And because they believe this, they never actually test themselves. This is critical because unrealized potential protects the ego. If people never try, they never have to discover their limits. They never have to face failure. They never have to risk embarrassment. And so they stay trapped in possibility forever. Now imagine another person. She tries, fails, learns, fails again, adjusts, improves. At first, she appears less impressive, but every failure teaches something. Every action creates feedback. Every attempt builds capability. And slowly, she becomes dangerous. Not because of talent, because of repetition, This is one of the biggest invisible advantages in life. Action produces growth. Thinking about action does not. Now let's go deeper. Many people are addicted to planning. Not because planning is productive, but because planning feels safe. When you're planning, you still control the outcome emotionally. Reality has not challenged you yet. Reality has not judged you yet. Reality has not exposed your weaknesses yet. But action changes everything. Action reveals truth. Now imagine a person who spends 6 months planning a business. Everything looks perfect. The strategy, the numbers, the vision. But the moment the business launches, reality begins speaking. Customers react differently. Problems appear. Mistakes happen. Unexpected challenges emerge. And suddenly, the real learning begins. This is why action matters so much. Reality teaches lessons that imagination never can. Now here's something deeper. Confidence is often misunderstood. Most people believe confidence comes first, then action follows. But in reality, the opposite is usually true. Action creates confidence, not the other way around. Now imagine a person waiting to feel confident enough to speak publicly. Years pass. Nothing changes. Because confidence never arrives magically. Now imagine another person. She speaks while nervous, while uncomfortable, while uncertain. The first speech is difficult. The second speech is difficult. The third speech is slightly easier. And eventually, confidence appears, not before action, because of action. This changes everything, because people stop waiting emotionally and start building practically. Now let's go deeper. Another reason people stay stuck is fear of imperfection. They want the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect strategy, the perfect opportunity. But perfection is often another form of procrastination. Now imagine two builders. The first builder spends years designing the perfect blueprint. Every detail is flawless. Every measurement is precise. But construction never begins. Now imagine the second builder. His plan is imperfect. His process is messy. Mistakes happen constantly. But every day, another brick is placed. Another wall rises. Another piece gets completed. 5 years later, one person owns a building. The other owns a blueprint. This is powerful because imperfect action usually defeats perfect intention. Now here's something important. The marketplace rewards finished work, not hidden potential. Readers reward books that exist. Customers reward businesses that exist. Employers reward skills that exist. The world responds to reality, not possibility. This can feel unfair, but it is also liberating, because success becomes less mysterious, less magical, less dependent on talent, and more dependent on behavior. Now imagine another situation. Two people start learning English. The first person studies methods endlessly, watches videos about learning, researches techniques, compares strategies. The second person simply practices every day. Not perfectly, just consistently. 1 year later, the difference becomes obvious because progress belongs to movement, not contemplation. Now let's go deeper. Another hidden danger of potential is arrogance. Some people secretly believe their future success is guaranteed because they are smart, because they are talented, because they have good ideas. And this belief creates complacency. Now imagine another person. She assumes nothing. She earns every improvement, every skill, every result. And because she respects the process, she keeps growing. This is another invisible difference. Some people rely on identity. Others rely on action. Action usually wins. Now here's something even deeper. Life rarely rewards who you could become. Life responds to who you are becoming. Every day, every action, every habit, every choice. You are either building evidence or collecting excuses. And over time, that difference becomes a completely different life. Another powerful example is Kobe Bryant. People often remember his talent, but those who knew his story often talked about something else. Relentless practice, relentless repetition, relentless work ethic. Because even extraordinary talent requires extraordinary action. That lesson applies far beyond sports. Now think about your own life. Where have you been relying on potential? Where have you been waiting? Instead of building, what goal remains unfinished? Because action feels uncomfortable, these questions matter deeply. Because every year, millions of people admire their potential, but only a small number turn that potential into reality. Now let's step back for a moment. The future does not belong to the smartest people, or the most talented people, or even the most gifted people. The future belongs to the people who keep moving. In the final part, we will go even deeper. We will explore why action creates momentum, why small steps outperform big dreams, and why builders eventually surpass dreamers every single time. Because in the end, potential is only the beginning. Action is what changes lives. Part 3, Builders always surpass dreamers. Dreams are important. Potential is valuable. Vision matters. But none of those things change reality. Reality changes when somebody starts building. And that is why builders eventually surpass dreamers. Take a moment and think about your own life, not your intentions, not your plans, not your potential, your actions. Because in the end, your life is built from what you do repeatedly, not what you imagine repeatedly. Now let's begin. One of the greatest advantages in life is momentum. Most people underestimate it because momentum looks small in the beginning, almost invisible. One action, one decision, one step, one day. Nothing dramatic, nothing impressive, but momentum compounds. Now imagine a person deciding to improve his life. The first day, he takes one small action. Nothing extraordinary. The second day, another small action. Then another. Then another. At first, the progress feels insignificant, almost meaningless. But months later, something changes. The actions begin connecting. The habits begin strengthening. The identity begins shifting. And suddenly, the person who once struggled to start has become someone who naturally moves forward. This is powerful because action creates momentum, and momentum creates transformation. Now imagine another person. He waits, he plans, he dreams, he thinks constantly about what he wants. But because he never creates momentum, everything remains theoretical. His future exists only in imagination. This is one of the biggest invisible differences in life. Movement creates possibility. Waiting creates stagnation. Now let's go deeper. Many people believe massive success requires massive action, but often the opposite is true. Massive success is usually built through small actions repeated consistently. Now imagine a person wanting to become healthier. He imagines dramatic transformation, an entirely new life, perfect habits, perfect discipline. And because the goal feels enormous, he becomes overwhelmed. Now imagine another person. She simply starts walking every day. Just one simple habit. Nothing dramatic. But she continues. Weeks become months. Months become years. And eventually, small actions create extraordinary results. This principle appears everywhere. Business, health, learning, relationships, wealth. Everything compounds. Now here's something important. The world rarely notices people while they are building. This surprises many people. They imagine success as recognition, applause, attention, validation. But most builders spend years working in obscurity, years improving quietly, years creating quietly, years learning quietly. And because no immediate reward appears, many people quit too early. Now imagine another person. She accepts invisibility, accepts slow progress, accepts delayed results, and because she stays committed, she eventually reaches places that impatient people never reach. This is critical because patience often separates builders from dreamers. Now let's go deeper. One of the greatest obstacles to action is emotional dependence on results. People want immediate proof, immediate success, immediate rewards. But reality rarely works that way. Now imagine planting a tree. The first week, nothing seems different. The first month, very little changes. The first year, progress feels slow. But beneath the surface, roots are growing, strength is forming, foundations are being built. This is how meaningful success often works. Growth becomes visible only after long periods of invisible effort. Now imagine another person. He wants visible results immediately, and because they do not appear quickly, he quits, then starts something else, then quits again, then starts again. And years pass without mastery, without momentum, without progress. This happens constantly because many people are addicted to excitement. Builders are committed to consistency. Now here's something deeper. Action changes identity. This may be the most important lesson of all. Most people believe identity comes first, then behavior follows. But often, behavior creates identity. Now imagine a person saying, I want to become disciplined. The statement sounds good, but nothing changes. Now imagine another person. She acts with discipline repeatedly, day after day, and eventually, she no longer says, I want to become disciplined. She says, I am disciplined, because her actions created evidence. This changes everything, because identity is built through proof, not wishes. Now let's go deeper. Another reason builders succeed is because they learn faster. Dreamers imagine, builders discover. Now imagine two entrepreneurs. The first spends years thinking. The second starts immediately. The first avoids mistakes. The second makes hundreds of mistakes. At first, the first person appears smarter. But years later, the second person possesses something far more valuable: experience. Because action creates feedback, and feedback creates wisdom. This is powerful, because wisdom cannot be downloaded. It must be earned. Now imagine another situation. A person waits for certainty before acting, but certainty never comes. Because certainty is usually the result of experience, not the prerequisite. Now imagine another person. She moves forward despite uncertainty, and because she gains experience, clarity gradually appears. This is another invisible difference. Action creates understanding. Waiting creates doubt. Now here's something important. At the end of life, people rarely regret action. They regret hesitation. The opportunities ignored, the dreams postponed, the risks avoided, the life never fully lived. Now imagine looking back 20 years from now. What would hurt more? Failing after trying? Or wondering what might have happened if you had started? For most people, the answer becomes obvious because regret often comes from inaction, not action. Now let's go deeper. The future belongs to builders because builders create reality. While others discuss possibilities, builders create outcomes. While others wait, builders move. While others hope, builders act. This is why action remains one of the most powerful forces in human life. Another powerful example is Walt Disney. Many people had dreams. Many people had imagination. But imagination alone never built empires. Execution did. Persistence did. Action did. The same principle applies today. The world does not reward who has the best intentions. It rewards who creates value consistently. Now think about your own life. What have you been postponing? What dream remains trapped inside planning? What future keeps getting delayed? Because you are waiting for certainty? These questions matter deeply. Because every day you wait, someone else is building. Someone else is learning. Someone else is creating momentum. Now let's step back for a moment. This message is not about perfection. It is not about moving fast. It is not about becoming obsessed with productivity. It is about one simple truth. Action matters. Small action, consistent action, imperfect action. Because imperfect action will always outperform perfect hesitation. Now here's the final truth. The world rewards action, not potential, not intention, not possibility. Action. The people who eventually build meaningful lives are rarely the most talented. They are usually the people who kept placing one brick after another, long after everyone else stopped. Before we finish, ask yourself honestly, are you still protecting your potential? Or are you finally building with it? Because your future will not be determined by what you could become. It will be determined by what you choose to do today. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Keep building, keep moving, keep creating, and see you in the next story.